Welcome to free CSCS and CPCS video course, the latest, CITB Health and Safety Lessons, 2021, UK. CSCS. Test Glossary Free Video Course. Many words and terms that you will hear on a construction site are explained in the main part of this course. The list below includes some more terms that you might come across. ACOP, Approved Code of Practice. Acute. An immediate health effect. For example, burns to the skin from acids or chemicals. Adhesive. A substance used for sticking things together. Abrasive wheel machine. A machine, such as a bench-mounted grinder or a disc cutter, which is used for cutting or grinding materials. Allergy. A damaging reaction of the body caused by contact with a particular substance. Asbestos. A naturally occurring, heat-resistant substance that was once used extensively in construction work. Breathing in asbestos fibers is harmful to the lungs. Asthma. An illness that causes difficulty in breathing. Bacteria. Germs that can cause some illnesses. Barrier cream. A protective cream applied to your hands before starting work. Bracing. Scaffold poles that make a scaffold rigid. Brick guard. A metal mesh fitted to a scaffold to prevent anything from falling through the gaps between the guard rails and toe board. BS. British Standards. BSI. British Standards Institution. Cable ramp. A temporary cover laid over a trailing cable to protect it from damage by people or traffic passing over it. Carcinogen. Substances that can lead to cancer, cancer-causing agents. For example, asbestos and diesel exhaust fumes. CCTV. Closed circuit television. CDM. Construction, design and management, regulations. Cherry picker. A type of mobile elevating work platform, MEWP, on which a passenger carrying basket is located on the end of an articulating or extending arm. Chronic. Long-term effects on health. For example, developing asthma from wood dust, or cancer from asbestos exposure. Consultation. The action or process of formally consulting or discussing, for example, a manager asking you for your input whilst carrying out a risk assessment. Control measure. Putting measures in place to reduce the risk to an acceptable level, for example, guarding on a machine. COSHH. Control of substances hazardous to health. CPCS. Construction Plant Competence Scheme. Crush injuries. Injuries caused by something crushing a part of the body. CSCS. Construction Skills Certification Scheme. Distribution System, electrical. The method that is used to get electrical supplies to where they are needed on site. Double handling. Having to move something twice. E.A. Environment Agency. Edge protection. A framework of scaffold poles or other suitable barrier erected around an open edge to stop anything from falling over the edge. EMAS. Employment Medical Advisory Service. Employee. Someone who works for someone else. Employer. Someone who has people working for him or her. LOLER. Lifting Operations and Lifting Equipment Regulations. LPG. Liquefied petroleum gas. Method statement. A step-by-step description of how to carry out a job safely. MEWP. Mobile Elevating Work Platform. NVQ. National Vocational Qualification. PAT. Portable Appliance Testing. Permit to Work. A system used for controlling high-risk activities, such as working on live electrical cables, or where activities need extra controls, such as hot works, confined space entry and breaking ground, permits to dig. PPE. Personal Protective Equipment. FRS. Fire and Rescue Service. HAVS. Hand-arm vibration syndrome. Hazard. Anything that has the potential to cause harm, ill health, injury, or damage. Health and safety at work, etc. Act 1974, HSWA. The main piece of health and safety law. HFL. Highly flammable liquids. HSE. Health and Safety Executive. HSE Inspector. An official who can inspect the site and take action if work is not being carried out safely. Lanyard. A length of fabric that connects a safety harness with a fixed strong point. Ligament. A band of tough body tissue that connects bones or cartilage. P. U. W. E. R. Provision and Use of Work Equipment Regulations. RCD. Residual Current Device. R. I. D. D. O. R. Reporting of Injuries, Diseases, and Dangerous Occurrences Regulations. Risk. The likelihood of an event occurring from a hazard. Risk Assessment. A document identifying the hazards, risks, and control measures for a particular activity. RPE. Respiratory Protective Equipment. Scissor lift. A type of MEWP with a platform that rises vertically. Slewing. Part of an item of plant, such as the jib and counterweight of a crane, rotating about a vertical axis. Solvent. Chemical used to dissolve or dilute other substances. Tripping hazard. Items lying around that you might trip over. Ventilated. Supplied with fresh air. WBV. Whole body vibration. WEL. Workplace exposure limit. WWT. Working well together. General responsibilities. You and your site employer. What your site and employer should do for you. 1. Provide a safe place to work. 2. Provide safe plant and equipment, safe substances and materials, safe methods and systems of work, and safe and competent persons to work with. 3. Eliminate or avoid risks where possible. 4. Tell you about the hazards and the risks and how they will be eliminated or controlled. 5. Provide information, instruction and training so you can do your job safely and in safety. 6. Communicate with you and allow you to have your say. 7. Make sure suitable welfare facilities are provided. 8. Make sure personal protective equipment, PPE, and clothing is provided. What you should do for your site and employer. 1. Make sure you fully understand and follow the site rules and your safe system of work. 2. Avoid taking shortcuts or risks. 3. Go to and take part in safety inductions and briefings. 4. Cooperate and get involved. 5. Make sure you fully understand and follow all method statements and precautions. 6. Report anything you think is unsafe. 7. Make sure you wear your protective clothing and use any equipment correctly. 8. Report any damage or faults with protective clothing and equipment. Everyone on a construction site is legally and morally responsible for health and safety. By knowing what is needed, you will be able to understand what you and your employer's legal duties are for protecting the health and safety of you and other people while at work. This free video course will help you understand the following. What the law requires from everyone. Employers must provide a safe place of work. Safe systems of work must be planned for, put in place and followed. People at work must be trained, competent and involved in protecting their own and other people's health and safety. Communication has to be open, effective, and honest so everyone knows what is expected of them. The Health and Safety Executive, HSE, can and will enforce the law in respect of health and safety. CSCS test requirements of the law. The Health and Safety at Work etc. Act 1974 was introduced to protect the health and safety of everyone at work. Your employer is responsible for the following: protecting the health, safety, and welfare of all their employees at work. Providing and maintaining plant and systems of work that are safe. Making sure articles and substances are safely used, handled, stored, and transported. Providing information, instruction, training, and supervision, and communicating these effectively. Maintaining any place of work under their control in a condition that is safe and without risk to health. The Health and Safety at Work etc. Act imposes a legal duty on you as an employee. This means you have legal duties to do the following. Work safely, by protecting your own health and safety and that of other people who may be endangered by your acts or omissions. Cooperate with your employer in relation to health and safety. Make sure you understand and follow all safety rules, method statements, and precautions. Make sure you wear your protective clothing and use any equipment correctly. Report anything you think is unsafe, including any damaged or faulty protective clothing or equipment. Working safely. The law requires employers to develop safe systems of work, a defined method of carrying out each job in a safe way. The following documents can form part of the safe system of work. Health and Safety Policy. Risk Assessments. Method Statements. Permit to Work. Construction Phase Plan. Survey Results. Health Surveillance. Control of Substances Hazardous to Health, COSHH, Assessments. Health and Safety Policy. Your employer's health and safety policy will give you the following information. Explain how health and safety is managed in your company. Identify what the arrangements are, what should be done and how it should be done. Show who is responsible for doing what, including what you and your fellow workers must do. Risk assessments. Risk assessments explain the following. The hazards of the work site or task, for example, an open excavation. The significant risks, for example, people falling in. The control measures needed to minimize the risk to an acceptable level. For example, erect a double handrail around all sides of an excavation, with a safe way of getting in and out for workers. Make sure excavations are inspected and that they have suitable barriers, warning signs, and are adequately lit at night. Your employer should assess the risks to both you and others arising from the work being done. A hazard is anything that could cause harm to you or another person, such as chemicals, working from a ladder, or electricity. The risk is the chance, likelihood, that you, or someone else, could be harmed by the hazard and how serious any harm could be. Method statements. Method statements explain how the job is to be done safely. They will also identify the following: the sequence, method, and controls to be followed, the materials and equipment to be used, the number of people and the skills, knowledge, training, experience, and supervision needed. Permit to work. A permit to work system is used for controlling high-risk activities, or where there are activities that need extra controls. It is a formal, dated, and time-limited certificate signed by a properly authorized and competent person. Permits have strict controls and limitations that must be followed. You must never start any job for which a permit is needed before the permit's start time and before the controls are in place. The types of activity that need a permit to work system include the following: working on live electrical cables, confined space entry, hot works or welding, breaking the ground, permits to dig. Construction phase plan. A construction phase plan is needed for every construction project. It must be regularly reviewed and may be added to or changed as the project goes ahead. It will give you the following information: the identity and location of the main dangers on site and how they will be controlled, how the work has been planned with safety in mind, how the site will be organized, how people will work safely together, the arrangements for providing welfare facilities. Survey results. There are a number of surveys, for example, an asbestos, noise, or underground services survey, that may be required. These survey results will form part of the safe system of work, as they will show where certain hazards may be. Health surveillance. Health surveillance allows for the signs of ill health to be identified early. It may be needed if you are exposed to a hazardous agent or if your work may have an adverse effect on your body, for example, hearing damage if you are working in a noisy area. It lets your employer check that their control measures are working and that you are not exposed to any ill health that could be prevented. Kash Assessments. Kash assessments are an assessment of health risks created by work involving substances hazardous to health. Kash assessments concentrate on the hazards and risks from hazardous substances in your workplace. Remember that health hazards are not limited to substances labeled as hazardous. Some harmful substances can be produced by the method of work you use, for example, wood dust from sanding, or silica dust from tile or block cutting. Employers must carry out a Kash assessment for the following reasons: to identify the hazardous substances used in, or created by, a work process to which you and others will be exposed. To establish the degree of risk to your health resulting from exposure. To devise safe systems of work that either eliminate exposure or control it to an acceptable level. Do you follow a safe system of work? Are you familiar with your safe system of work? Do you know what the sequence of work is? Are you aware of the hazards? Do you have the right equipment and training? Do you fully understand the identified control measures? Or are you doing the job the way you have always done it, the way you think it should be done, or just having to make do with what you have got? If you are working differently from the written and approved safe system of work, then speak to your supervisor or employer. Your way may be better, quicker, or more efficient, but it may have other risks that you don't know or haven't thought about. The system of work will need to be assessed and, if necessary, extra controls put in place. The law needs you to have the necessary training, knowledge, experience, and skills so you can carry out the tasks given to you safely. You should never be put in a position where you have to carry out a job for which you do not have the necessary competence, equipment, and safe method of working. If you think you are, then you may be putting yourself or others at risk. You need to speak to your supervisor or the site manager. Sharing information and knowledge. Good communication of health and safety information is essential for everyone. Employers have a legal duty to consult with their workforce. To be effective, it needs to be two-way, both sides listening, as well as talking. This can be done in a variety of ways. Site inductions, posters, safety briefings, toolbox talks, informal chats and open door policies, worker involvement schemes, suggestion boxes, health and safety law poster or pocket card. Employers must either display a copy of the official health and safety law poster or give every employee a card or leaflet that contains this information. Site induction. You must attend a site induction for each new site that you visit. As a minimum, you should be told about the following: the site rules, the site hazards, for example, overhead power lines, traffic management systems, areas of the site where you can and cannot go, welfare facilities, emergency and first aid arrangements, personal protective equipment, PPE. Permits to work, environmental considerations and any protective requirements. How you will be consulted regarding health and safety matters. Toolbox Talks. These are short health and safety briefing sessions that may be on a particular subject connected to the work being carried out or that communicate other important safety information and advice. The person delivering the Toolbox Talk should give you the opportunity to ask questions or raise concerns. The aim of a Toolbox Talk is to give and share information to keep you safe and protect your health. Worker involvement. Workers are often the best people to understand the risks in their workplace. Talking to, listening and cooperating with each other can help in the following ways. Identify joint solutions to problems. Raise standards. Reduce accidents and ill health. Help people to work safely and in safety. You may be asked to take part in site inspections or audits and discuss your usual work methods. This will help your employer understand any problems you are experiencing and help them to propose solutions. Have your say. Many sites run suggestion schemes, have regular safety forums or meetings and have open door policies. Please get involved. Your views are important and can make a difference. The HSE is a government body responsible for overseeing most aspects of workplace health and safety in the UK. The HSE's main roles are listed below. Offer advice on workplace health and safety. Carry out workplace inspections. Conduct serious accident investigations. Carry out enforcement action for health and safety breaches. HSE inspectors can issue notices if they think it necessary. HSE inspectors have the following powers. The legal power to demand entry to the workplace without notice, with a police officer if necessary. Can interview you or anyone else, with or without caution. Can prosecute a company, an employer, or an individual employee, in a magistrate's or Crown Court. Can raise and issue improvement or prohibition notices, on an employer or an individual worker. Such notices must be complied with. Can charge the employer a fee for intervention. Can measure, and take photographs, samples, or possession of anything, if required for evidence. Can inspect record books and any other documents. Can demand that the scene of an accident remains undisturbed. Improvement notices. These are issued if something is unsafe, not up to standard, or not being adequately controlled. They will say how, in the HSE inspector's opinion, the law was being broken and give a date by which things must be put right or improved. Prohibition notices. These are issued when, in the inspector's opinion, something is so unsafe that all work connected to it must stop immediately, on issue of the notice, and must not start again until the matter has been put right. Fee for intervention. The HSE can charge an hourly rate for the time the HSE inspector spends investigating a breach of health and safety law, including visits, letter writing, and ensuring that the matter has been put right. Examples of HSE prosecutions. Operator blamed by HSE, as employer had provided proper training. A 25-year-old street lighting operative, employed by a highways maintenance contractor, has been ordered to pay over £5,000 in fines and prosecution costs after failing to put up temporary barriers around the lamp where he was working. A toddler was injured when part of a street light fell as she was passing underneath. The child was in a pram being pushed along a London street when the reflector from a street light struck her on the head, causing a wound that needed stitches. The operative had been told to investigate a faulty street lamp in Hackney, London. When he detached the reflector at the top of the lamp post, it fell toward the mother and her daughter below. Temporary barriers should have been used to separate pedestrians from the work area around the lamp before the operative dismantled the reflector. The operative pleaded guilty to breaching Section 7(a) of the Health and Safety at Work etc. Act 1974. He was fined £2,250 and ordered to pay costs of £2,888. Speaking after the case, a HSE inspector said, "This was a serious incident that needlessly injured a small child and caused her mother understandable distress. No blame can be attached to the contractor as the operative had been properly trained by his employer to carry out this kind of work safely. Individual employees must realize that they face criminal prosecution by the HSE if they show a reckless disregard for health and safety, putting others at serious risk." Company fined £2.4 million following 2 corporate manslaughter charges. A construction company director has been jailed after 2 workers fell from a first-floor balcony at a luxury flat in Knightsbridge, West London. The 44-year-old director of the renovation firm was found guilty of breaching Section 2(1) of the Health and Safety at Work etc. Act and received a 14-month prison sentence for each death, which will run concurrently. He was also barred from being a company director for 4 years. The company, which has gone into liquidation since the incident, despite previously having an annual turnover of around £9.7 million, was found guilty of 2 counts of corporate manslaughter and 2 breaches of Section 2(1) of the Health and Safety at Work etc. Act. The company was fined £1.2 million for each death and £650,000 for health and safety at work etc. Act breaches, all of which apply concurrently. It must also pay £72,000 costs. The court heard that in November 2014 two Polish nationals, aged 22 and 29 years, fell from the balcony of a flat in London's Cadogan Square, which was being refurbished by the renovation company. The men were part of a group of 5 workers who were using ropes to haul a 115 kg sofa up 6 meters, over a balustrade and onto a balcony, with only the iron Victorian railings of the balcony acting as a barrier. The 130-year-old railings gave way and the 2 men fell from the balcony to the ground. The 22-year-old was pronounced dead at the scene, while the 29-year-old was taken to a central London hospital in a critical condition, where he later died of his injuries. The sofa delivery company had recommended that an external furniture lift should be hired for the lift and had emailed the director of the renovation company with an estimated budget of £848 to hire an external lift. The director responded with a message saying, "Unfortunately, we do not have time for all that. Please deliver the sofa and we will get it up to the flat." The work on the flat was over budget and behind schedule. The budget had increased from around £650,000 to as much as £920,000. The court heard that on the day of the accident there was a failure to identify who was supervising the site. The prosecution told the court that none of the training documents provided were in Polish, despite the workers not speaking English, suggesting that the documents were there just for show. The men were also not provided with a plan, method statement, or risk assessment before the task started. The judge stated that the director's motive for ignoring the warnings about the furniture lift must have been in one way or another to benefit his business. The word has got to get out that health and safety on building sites is not a boring technicality. It is vital to the safety of employees and others in what is inherently a dangerous environment. Those who are willfully blind to the risks, despite warnings, as you were, have got to expect to go immediately to prison. Source: HSE. Thank you for watching and good luck for your test.